Hello there. Welcome to the Trivial Pursuits of JUG and RTDL. I'm JUG,
And I'm RTDL.
and we're coming at you from different parts of the country. I'm here in Northern California,
And I'm here in North Central Texas.
Central Texas. Great. So we're starting a whole series of podcasts on the wonderful book by Douglas Hofstadter. I'm Gödel, Escher, Bach. So we have 20 weeks to get 20 weeks, about
We do it in 20 episodes, I believe.
20 episodes to get through the book, and we are going to be discussing this. I've read this book when I was in college for sure, all the way through, but I'm of course not quite understanding it. What about you?
So this is my second time around, but I didn't read it all the way through the first time. We did a book club on it a few years back during the summer, and the summer got away from us. So we're going to do it again. We really want to focus on this and go through all of the components and concepts in here because it predicts a lot of what's happening today, and it's got some pretty interesting puzzles. And it covers basically four of our topics. It covers math, science or philosophy, and physics, and somewhat current events because it does touch on AI. So it covers multiple topics for our show, multiple themes.
And a really interesting thing about this book is that I did, like I said, I read it before. I really just considered it a book about explaining Gödel's proof and having some fun with words and fun with music and fun with drawings. That's the Bach and the Escher part of it. But this time around, I read the preface, which Hofstadter rewrote it was a few years back for the updated version.
Right.
The book was first published in 1979. So I read it in the late 80s when I was younger, but now I think I really um, was surprised by the preface and what he's actually saying what the book is about, which is it's about consciousness. Think, yeah, this is something I've been thinking about recently myself for a long time.
For sure, yeah. He did surprise me with his explanation, and he said that a lot of people disagree with the way he explains it. So this is what he says in his own words. This book is really about what is a self and how
Right.
can a self come out of stuff that is selfless? It's as selfless as a stone or a puddle. What is an I? And then he wants to explain that through what he calls strange loops that they hold the key to unraveling being or consciousness. And so the
Yeah.
last thing he says on that is Gödel Escher Bach is in essence a long proposal of strange loops as a metaphor for how selfhood originates, paradoxically so terribly real and yet also so vague.
Yeah, and the it like I said, I was surprised, and I was happily surprised that this is what this book is about because it really makes it much more worth the effort. I mean, the effort. I would like the effort of just going through the puzzles and understanding the mathematical proof and all the it's built on paradoxes and all kinds of self-referential material, which is exciting on its own, but to think of it at another level where it's I think he's claiming it's the basic building blocks of all consciousness that exists.
Yes. And he does that. He does that with three different artists, really. I think you could consider Gödel an artist. He's a logician and a mathematician, but he does that with three different human beings that created what seem like strange loops. There's Gödel, Kurt Friedrich Gödel, and he's a logician, mathematician, and cosmologist, and a philosopher. He proposed his incompleteness theorems, which are referenced often in this book, and JUG enlighten us on what that is all about.
Okay, so in the in the 19th century, all the mathematicians were having troubles into the 20th century. They're having troubles with consistency in mathematical systems, basically. So just like our number system, which is the one that everybody's most interested in, there were there was problems with it because you couldn't prove certain true, and you couldn't everything was inconsistent in that you could get paradoxes basically. So a paradox is something that's true. You don't know whether it's true or false, or if it's both at the same time. So what in the early 20th century, Bertrand Russell and his partner tried to take care of
Whitehead.
that. It
Whitehead.
was Whitehead. They tried to build a logical system from the ground up to get rid of paradoxes, basically. So, do you want to talk about what a paradox is? What's your favorite
Well,
paradox?
well, Zeno's paradox that he starts with, and the way this book is structured is that it has at the very first thing that we're going to talk about is the introduction, but after that, he goes to a dialogue, and then gives a puzzle, and that's pretty much what he does each chapter.
Okay. Um, and then they spent 3 years. They wrote this huge mathematical tome called the Principia Mathematica, and I really, I've never read it. I've seen pieces of it quoted from, I mean, in different works. But the reason I know more about it is because I read this graphic novel it's by Doxiadis and Papadimitriou, and it is called Logicomics, an epic search for truth, and it's about how Whitehead and Bertrand Russell come up with the idea of this they did to write the Principia Mathematica. So this was so everybody was happy, but then Kurt Gödel comes along and he basically just he takes their system and he finds a paradox in their system.
Yes.
And it's all around these strange loops that Ronnie was talking about earlier.
Yes, and I think his beef was that you can't prove a reasoning system with the reasoning system itself.
Right,
A system of
right.
logic can't be proved with its own system. It's self-referencing, and that really bothers Hofstadter for sure. And
Yeah,
it, Gödel.
yeah, Gödel. So Gödel, he proves that any system that you build is going to have inconsistency. There's no complete systems, and most people at first this was taken. It was a shock to the math community, or like a shock, right? But what?
1931, right? We're
Oh
talking
yeah,
about,
this
yeah.
is the earliest 20th century. But then other types of math comes along. There's some non-Euclidean geometry. There's Cantor with all his infinities, which is really mind-blowing stuff too, and different dimensions. It's just all this strange stuff is happening in math. But what the other interesting thing that Hofstadter is claiming is that the proof of the inconsistent systems by Gödel is it's the self-referential aspect of it. It's not a bug. It's actually the a what's the opposite of a bug? It's something positive that's happening. This is how you get interesting um systems. You get and what he calls it, he's talking about inanimate to animate objects. So
Yes.
you start if you can self-reference yourself, if you can think about yourself, and he's talking about numbers, long lists of numbers, which
Mhm.
which will reference themselves like in code, like coding. But then I think the leap he's going to make is to consciousness. So what's happening in our brains is that all of these loops are occurring over and over, strange loops, and that's why we think we have a self.
Sure. That was Gödel. And we'll get back, but the name of the book is Gödel, Escher, and Bach. So
You
MC
know.
Escher, and if you've been on a college campus and you're near the physics department or the math department, and I don't know if it's that way today, but it was way back when I was in school. There are people walking around with these T-shirts where it looks like monks walking up and down, ascending and descending on a stairway. So MC Escher was a graphic artist, and he created art featuring images of seemingly impossible objects through the use of concepts such as infinity, reflection, symmetry, and perspective, and heavy use of geometric shapes and mathematical ideas.
Hmm. And you'd recognize um, anything that Escher's done. There's lots of tessellations.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of like the waterfall. The men are working up and down at the same time. It's just impossible situations, which is this whole self-referencing thing. You're going back to the beginning. That's the idea of the loop.
Mm-hmm.
So and like the one where the hand is drawing another hand,
Yeah,
and that hand is drawing the hand that's being drawn, and
yeah,
it just builds. It's just an infinite loop. It's an interesting idea.
yes. So the other person that's in this book is Johann Sebastian Bach, a composer and musician of the late Baroque period. And he used Bach. I mean, Hofstadter references Bach's use of musical theory and techniques like counterpoint, that's note against note, harmonic, combining sounds, motifs, short musical idea, recurring figure, musical fragment, and succession of notes, that kind of organization. But again, you'll see in here, we'll talk about it, but Bach has this endlessly rising canon. And again, it starts in a point, goes to, it seems like it's going to go on forever, and it ends up circling back through that point, starting all over again, just like the
Hmm.
monks ascending and descending in Escher's paintings.
Hmm. And I think he's making up the connection here between there's the musical, which I think is probably for humans the most. It's what we resonate with the most. Everybody has music in their lives. There's every culture has music. It's just something that's innate within us. But
Mm-hmm.
but what he's looking at, what Bach is doing, is just crazy stuff with music. He has
Yeah,
a motif, a theme, and then he'll replicate it, and then he'll
yeah,
replicate it, and then he'll do it forwards. He'll do it backwards. He'll do it one. He'll do a layer that's going really slowly, and it's just all.
yeah.
But our brains can like that.
They
We
can
like that type of thing.
we can appreciate that. So let's get to that. That
Yeah.
starts the introduction. Hofstadter, when he finally gets into the meat of the book, the introduction starts with Bach and a musical logical offering that he tells a story of an encounter between Bach and Frederick the Great in 1947. Frederick the Great was the king of Prussia, but also a musical aficionado, and
Yeah.
he was buying up these brand new pianos. They were a new invention up until then. I mean, Bach had been composing for harpsichord, but Frederick the Great had like 17 of these. I think you call them piano forte at the time, but that they could get loud, soft, where the harpsichord just had one volume level, I'm assuming. So what happened? You were just explaining it. He asked the king to offer a theme so that he could basically riff on it and do his thing, right, do his
Right.
fugues. And but you go ahead and tell him about that. I'll find the theme and play some of the what we're talking about.
So you can think of just a theme as like and you're singing a song, it's the melody that you sing that you know, and it repeats. It can have different words, but this is all musical. So with the harpsichord, it does just play one level. You can't have soft and loud. So that's where the piano made a big jump in musicality. But you can do a lot on the harpsichord. And what Bach did was he'd take the one theme, like I was saying, and then he would just start layering it with different voices. He would go up, go down, go
Yeah.
sideways, go backwards.
Yeah. And one of the things I wrote down, because he said it in his book, Hofstadter did, the first type of theme is basically a round, like row, row, row your
Right, right,
boat.
right.
You could say you can play the theme and then delay it and start it again on, the first note where the second note starts. And you can think of that.
Hmm.
So, but he takes a copy of that one theme and he can do things like shift it in time, like that's around, or it can shift the picture up and down.
Hmm.
He can play one twice as fast as the other, and they still begin and end at the same place, and they would sound pleasing to us. And he can
Hmm.
invert them, he can reverse them. You mentioned all those things, but and the
Right.
reversal is called a crab cannon. I like that.
Yeah.
Walking back.
Yeah. We'll get to that one
So, but what
eventually.
it did was every version reserves a copy of the original theme, the original information. And so you can go to one of these cannons and you could actually rebuild the theme if you're good enough from that
Right,
canon,
right.
figure out the original theme. This is called an isomorphism. I'll put that up here.
One to
Isomorphism. Yeah.
It's one to one, so you can go
Yeah.
this way and this way.
Yeah.
So,
Every type of copy reserves the original information. He does get this theme from King
yeah,
Frederick, and he right there composes a three-part invention, I believe, and then eventually a six-part.
yeah. That's probably not how it really happened, but he did eventually do it.
Yeah, no, he did it. He went back and did it. He sent
Yeah, yeah,
he sent him the music, and he didn't even send him the
right.
complete music. He left holes so that the king
Exactly.
could figure out the rest.
He left them as puzzles. And are you about to play the theme?
Yeah, you ready
So
for
let's
that?
listen to it. So the interesting thing about the theme is it's not very melodic, if you think about it. Go ahead.
All right. And I'll stop it
That's
right
it.
there.
Yeah. So there is a picture of the theme. And the interesting thing about that is you can see that it's like I was saying, it's not a nice melody. It's difficult. It has lots of sharps and flats. I don't know if you can
Interesting
see
that
this.
that is the king's theme. That's what we just heard.
You see that?
Hmm. Yeah.
Something. So that's not normal. I mean, like a nice melody would just have C, G, A, F.
Yeah.
But Bach can work with anything. He was a genius. He was a musical genius. But so Bach did it with music, and this was at the early 1700s,
Mhm.
long time ago. But music was really advancing fast at that time, and then the piano, etc. And we didn't talk about the Chopin, but
Right.
he Hofstadter talks about the Chopin etude,
Hmm.
and it's just the music is but it's basically the same. There's a theme, and then there's variations on the theme.
Right.
That's the loop from the music. That's Bach's part, and then comes Escher, who who has all of these drawings that self. There's a drawing of him drawing himself, drawing the painting that he's drawing. So he's really making it in your face that he's self-referencing himself.
Hmm.
So this is that strange loop where it's just something that he it's just like a true feeling, or like it's like the music. It's a true human condition. So is this art, and then Gödel, when you could finally put it all in math, which is just all in numbers, base ones and zeros, proved that if you can self-reference anything in a formal system, and then Hofstadter makes the jump to consciousness, which is a huge jump, but I think it's an interesting one.
Yeah, it is, and I do wonder where his mind was all those years ago. But he was working overtime. So any more about Escher? There's a lot of cool stuff, but basically he's working with strange loops and infinity. And the cool thing is like he's got some finite. It's a paradox for sure because there's these monks walking up the stairs, but eventually if they keep walking, they're going down. So there's finite and infinite things kind of it's real and not real at the same time. But it's a strange loop. So, but yeah, you said Gödel demonstrates strange loops can be found in mathematics. But one of the things that he did, I remember reading in there, is he translates Epimenides' paradox into mathematics, which basically is boiled down to today's language as this statement is false. So if I say that, is it true or false what I just said? I'm telling you that this statement is false, but I'm giving you a statement. Yeah, so it's a paradox. Anyway, he develops the incompleteness theorem, and it says that all consistent axiomatic formulations of number theory include undecidable propositions. Anyway, we've talked about that already.
Okay.
I think that really covers most of what we wanted to cover there. One of the things that I thought was very interesting in this part before he gets into the dialogue was he references the possibility of AI and even urges us to embrace these ideas. This is a 1979 Douglas Hofstadter. If you watch a YouTube video of him today, he says he's terrified of AI now. He's got me terrified of it.
There's lots of different opinions on that, but
yeah,
it is interesting that he is talking about AI. He's even talks about the Babbage machine.
He does.
Way back that he was building a computer, and it's been around for a long time. People have been thinking about this for a long time, and now we're getting some form of what people are calling. I mean, nobody's calling it general AI, and we don't have to go into AI right now. But
we don't have to. But I may have my mind changed on that pretty soon. I think it's going at a pace that's so rapid that it's blown right through the Turing test, and it's going.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I saw some pretty interesting things on that recently. I've watched some pretty interesting things and read some things on that. I get this newsletter now about AI, and it's eye opening.
I am gonna then mention that I did watch the video that you recommended about AI, how dangerous it is, and I get all his points. I do, and it's interesting. But then there's other videos out there talking about how these large language models, they're already at their peak.
Okay.
They're not gonna get better unless you get huge amounts of storage space.
Yeah.
Like bigger than we can imagine, because they're already at so much. And it's talking about how they store their data, which is really interesting too. But that's just a different way of thinking about it or looking at it. Who knows what's going on?
Well, we're on the subject and we cover philosophy. I mean, I read an article the other day. I think I sent it to you, but I was surprised to learn that some of these large AI outfits are starting to hire philosophers. The philosophy degree is suddenly in vogue, which is the last thing you would think they would do. But supposedly there are two major opposing approaches to this, and I think Anthropic has the one where it's there were two terms that I learned. One is algorithm appreciation, and the other one is algorithm aversion. And the appreciation one is from the school of you can't cause any harm, you can't tell a lie. But the aversion was like, well, but a lie could be useful, it could be helpful. Think of the trolley problem. You want to minimize humans, but it can allow for different things to happen that. And I don't know which one's going to win out, but I think I know.
Well, it's I don't know what to think really. I don't. Sometimes I think one way, sometimes I think another way. But,
Well, it remains to be seen, but I think it's
mm,
interesting to talk about.
yeah.
Okay, so the last thing that happens in each one of these sessions is going to be this dialogue, and he borrows from Lewis Carroll, who borrows from Zeno, and has this dialogue. The first one's pretty simple and short. It's humorous, nerdy humorous, but humorous nonetheless, and it involves Achilles, the tortoise, and Zeno. And it, it's
It,
basically a three-part invention. There are three people there.
so yeah, just another self-referencing thing. So there's the tortoise, there's Achilles. They're having a conversation about paradoxes. And then the inventor of the paradox, Zeno himself, makes an appearance. And then he's telling them about a paradox that involves actually those two characters where they run a race and then they decide to run the race. So they're like, it's just another loop. They're just
Self-reference
referencing themselves. Yeah.
reminds me of Arabian Nights. It's all kind of nested stories, different levels.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's
That's a good.
maybe next time we do this, we'll read a little bit of these dialogues. Not much, because I think it's interesting to see how the self-referencing works. I don't know if we can do it justice by just kind of describing it in this way.
You know what? They're short. Maybe we could try that.
Yeah,
Mm,
this is our introductory
next
podcast.
time. Yeah. Yeah.
The paradoxes are fun. This is pretty heavy reading at times, and the paradoxes break it up and make it a little more fun, relaxed, and then he follows a paradox with a puzzle. And this particular puzzle is a MU puzzle, and it's really about defining terminology and fundamental rules for formal systems.
Yeah. I think I wrote something down here. Hold on. So it's the whole like you said, you can't. There's two ways of looking at the mu problem. So it's just a logical system problem. You have three letters, mu and I, and try to build what he calls theorems. You're given five axioms. Think of geometry. You have your five. They're called axioms, right? And they
Yes,
and then Euclid built all of geometry on those five axioms. So that's a very complicated system. Yeah. So in the
yeah,
mu puzzle, he builds just a system has three letters M, U, and I, and then he gives you a bunch of axioms, and then anything you can, and I think every word that he uses it precisely. So sometimes he's using the word proof, and sometimes he's using the word derive, and he talks about sometimes they're the same and sometimes they're not the same.
right,
So when you derive something from axioms, whatever you derive, any line that comes out in a derivation is a theorem. So anything that you can produce is called a theorem, which it is related to real theorems, which you can prove mathematically, which is what everyone's used to. But in logic, a theorem is just anything that can be derived. So the puzzle is, can you derive mu from
right.
his system?
With this
Uh,
formal system, yes,
and you can't you have there's two ways to think about it. You can try the axioms, just keep going, or you look outside the system. You
yes,
always have to have an M at the beginning, so that leaves out a whole bunch of strings. And it's he's saying that there's two ways of looking at everything, and that right now, I think he was talking about computers can only do one way, but humans can do both ways. But you have to do them at the same time.
mhm.
Humans actually do them at the same time, and that's the self-referencing and the
Yeah. Well, at the
going out.
time he was doing this in '79, writing all
Yeah.
this in the '70s, computers could be given these axioms and try to get, let's just say, get MU from MIU with all these
Right,
five
right.
axioms. And if there wasn't an answer, it wouldn't matter. The computer, would just continue to go on, ad infinitum, or however you say it, to infinity. And
Mhm.
but a human being would stop. They would realize this is a dead end, and so that he was saying that at the time, that's the way that worked. So, but a human would work within the system using the axioms, uh, and then maybe they would take a step back and look at it from a different, without outside of the system. You still go back in, work in the system, and follow the rules. But so that was the advantage of human consciousness at the time, I
Right.
think.
Yeah, yeah. Something like that. So he but and he actually, it's a good exercise working on the puzzle.
Hmm.
Of course, I think all puzzles are worthwhile
Yeah,
endeavors.
I know. Oh, well, so he had a little diagram about what that might
Oh
look
yeah,
like. Mine kind of did look like that when I did it. And I might
yeah.
put it in there, but I think so that covers the first session of Gödel, Escher, Bach. You have anything else you want to add to that?
No, I am excited about um doing this again because actually just it's just tying into a lot of things that I've been thinking about and reading about and listening to. I don't know if you I mean I'm sure you didn't get to that little slim book. I think I
Oh,
left it with you.
you did,
The
yeah.
the the I can't remember the title, but that is all about looping. It's it's the same idea. Here's what I was going to say though, that I think we should add in the dialogues as a
Okay.
dialogue because we need to add that you need to get a sense of that. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I may throw it up there so people can read it, but it's just a dialogue between three characters. But it's interesting, and it basically reinforces what the text that came before it was and the ideas.
Hmm.
So we're going to try
Definitely.
to do 19 more of these episodes, and I think
I mean,
talk.
it's a good something to strive for. Also, we should be having a couple of guests on
Oh,
this one, maybe this one, and maybe the other one,
do
maybe all of them.
you want to tease the guest? This is it's a good guest. I'll just say that.
I don't know if he's really that committed to it, so let me hold off on the tease right now.
Okay, a good but uncommitted guest.
Someone with more credentials than either of us.
Yes, by far. Okay.
Okay, very nice.
All right. So we'll get back to these strange loops next week.
Yeah.
So we'll just end this by saying,
Oh,
well, thank you. Yeah, double guns and thank you. Why don't we play this, the rest of this recheck?
oh, oh.
Okay. You are,
JUG.
I'm RTDL.
And we'll
Everybody,
see you soon. All right,
bye.
bye.